Hey guys, so welcome back to the last lesson in chapter 3. So last video you learned about lines in the coordinate planes, just regular old lines, finding slope and writing their equations. So today what you're going to learn about is writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Again, this should be a review from Algebra 1, but we will go back over it today. So super important with parallel lines is if two lines are parallel, then they have the same slope. So that means their slopes are equal. Meaning if the slope of one line is 4, then the slope of the parallel line is also 4. So you're going to see me use this symbol to write the slope of the parallel line. Okay, so for example, this equation y equals 2/3 x plus 2 is parallel to this equation y equals 2/3 x minus 5. They have the same slopes, but they don't have the same y-intercepts. Okay, so that's in slope-intercept form. Over here, we have y minus 5 equals negative 1/2 x plus 3, and y plus 7 equals negative 1/2 x minus 1. So again, they have the same slope, so that means they are parallel. If they have the same slope, they're exactly the same with the same slope and same y-intercept, then they are called coinciding, which means they're just on top of each other. They're the exact same line. They lie on top of each other. You wouldn't be able to tell that there were two lines there because they would be right on top of each other. Okay? Next, we have perpendicular lines. So perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocals. So you'll also see me talk about that as negative reciprocals, because what that means is they are flipped fractions and opposite signs. So let's say you have the slope of 1/2. In order to find the perpendicular slope, you'll take the 1/2, flip it, so you get 2/1, and then change the sign, so it'd be negative 2/1, or negative 2. So the perpendicular slope to 1/2 is negative 2. Okay, so just keep that in mind that you have to flip them and then change the sign. All right, so for example here, we have a slope of 2/5. What you would do to flip it is make it 5/2 and then change the sign to this negative 5/2. Same thing here. You have a 1/2, like I did. You flip it to positive 2/1, then change the sign to negative 2. Okay? Same thing if you had negative 1/2. To find the perpendicular slope, you would flip it, so you'd have 2/-1, but change the sign so it would just be positive 2. Okay, so don't forget you have to change it from negative to positive or positive to negative. All right, so in example 1, it wants us to determine whether the lines are parallel, intersect, or coincide. Okay, so we're going to look at our first equation. All you have to do to figure this out is find out what their slope is. So we're just going to figure out whether they're parallel or perpendicular. So my slope of this line is 2, and the slope of this line is 2. Again, this is in y equals mx plus b form. This m in front of the x, the number in front of the x is the slope. So because they have the same slope, they are parallel. Now let's look at these two. So this is in slope-intercept form, so I can easily see that my slope is 3. For this one, I actually have to manipulate it and put it back into slope-intercept form to find my slope. So to do that, all you need to do is get your y by itself. So we have 6x minus 2y equals 10. So I'm going to move my 6 over by subtracting it onto the other side. So you get negative 2y equals, and we want the mx in front, so I'm going to leave it negative 6x plus 10. Then you divide both sides by this entire thing of negative 2. And when you do, these cancel out and you're left with y equals negative 6 divided by negative 2 is a positive 3. And then positive 10 divided by negative 2 is a negative 5. So this is the same exact equation, just in a different form. So we can easily see that this slope is also 3. So these are also parallel. All right, last one. I need to find the slope of this first line. So again, same idea that we did up here. We're going to have to manipulate this and move this over. So you have 3x plus 2y equals 7. So I'm going to move the 3x over. So you get 2y equals negative 3x plus 7. Divide both sides by 2. The entire thing is divided by 2. So you get y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 7 over 2. All right, so this slope is negative 3 over 2. All right, now we have to do this line. So we just had to get y by itself. So in order to take 3y equals 4x plus 7, and we have to get y by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 3. So you get y equals 4/3 x plus 7 over 3. So this slope is 4 over 3. So because these slopes don't match and they're not opposite or negative reciprocals of each other, these are neither. All right, really quick before I move on, notice right here, I did not just say that the slope was 4. Because there is this 3 with the y, it is not in slope-intercept form. So because it's not in slope-intercept form, you cannot just take the number that's in front of the x. You have to get it into this y equals mx plus b form, like we did here, and we did here, in order to find the slope, okay? If it's in point slope form like we see up here, well, then you can get the slope from that. But if it is in one of these forms right here, then you have to manipulate it over into the y equals mx plus b form. All right, so hopefully that gives you a little more practice for what we did on the homework last lesson. All right. Next, it says to use the slopes to determine whether the lines are perpendicular, parallel, or neither. So here they give me 3 or 4 points. And what I have to do is find the slope of each line and then compare. So what we're going to use is we're going to use the slope formula. So remember, our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, so we want to find the slope of line AB. So that means I'm going to be using this line and this line. So I'm going to say this is x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so we're first going to find the slope of my yellow highlighted points. So we do y2 minus y1, so that's 5 minus 1, over x2 minus x1, which is 1 minus 2. And when we solve that, 5 minus 1 is 4. 1 minus 2 is a negative 1. So when we finally get our slope of line AB, 4 divided by negative 1 is going to give you a negative 4. Okay, so that's the slope of line AB. Now we need to find the slope of CD. So to find the slope of CD, we're going to use these 2 points. So I'm going to say this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So to find my slope of CD, we do y2 minus y1, so that's negative 2 minus 2, over x2 minus x1, which is 5 minus 4. So negative 2 minus 2 is a negative 4, over 5 minus 4 is a positive 1. So when you simplify that, your slope of line CD is negative 4. So we compare the two, and you can see that -4 and -4 are the same, so that means these lines are parallel. All right, so again, if their slopes are the same, then the lines are parallel. All right, so let's do it again with ST and UV. So to find the line of ST, you're going to compare this point and this point. So this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. So for my slope of ST, I have y2 minus y1, so that's -1 minus 2, over x2 minus x1, which is 5 minus -2. So when we simplify that, or when we solve that out, -1 minus 2 gives you a -3. 5 minus a -2, this becomes 5 plus 2, because these two negatives make it plus, so that becomes a 7. And you can't simplify that anymore, so your slope of ST is -3 over 7. All right, now we're going to look at our next line. So now we want to find the line of UV. So we're going to use this point and this point. So this will be my x1, y1, x2, y2. And then we plug that in. So for my slope of UV, we have y2 minus y1, so that's -4 minus 4, over x2 minus x1, that's -1 minus 3. So -4 minus 4 is a -8. -1 minus 3 is a -4. And when you simplify that out, -8 divided by -4 is a +2. And then when we compare, there is no relationship between 2 and -3 over 7, so these are neither. So if there is no relationship, if they're not opposite reciprocals, or they are not the same as each other, then you cannot say that they have any relationship. They are just neither. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do the next one. So it's FG. So we're going to use these 2 points. So this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. So when we plug it in for the slope of FG, we have 2 minus 1 over x2 minus 1, which is 2 minus 1. So 2 minus 1 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 divided by 1 is just 1. So your slope of FG is 1. Now we're going to find the slope of HJ. So we use these two. So this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. So for my slope of HJ, I have y2 minus y1, so that's 2 minus 1. And then we have x2 minus x1, which is going to be 1 minus 2. So 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 minus 2 is -1. And when you simplify those, you get that your slope of HJ is -1. Now, you guys might think that these are neither, but look at these fractions. If I flip 1 over 1, it's still just 1 over 1. But notice this is positive 1 over 1, this is positive 1 over -2. So these are actually opposite reciprocals of each other because one's positive, one's negative. So these are perpendicular. All right, so there's how all 3 of those are going to look. All right, so for the next one, we are writing the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. On the left-hand side, you will see you will see directions on how to do them. So when we look at the directions on how to do them, it says identify the slope of the given line. Identify the slope required. So we're either going to have the same slope or perpendicular, opposite reciprocal slopes. And then we're going to use point slope form of the line, plug in our required slope and point, and then solve for y. Okay, so this is going to help you with last night's homework or the night before's homework in order to solve for your y. So first thing we need to do is identify the slope of our given line. So it says we want to find a line parallel to this equation, y equals negative 2x plus 3, that passes through our line 1, 4. So our given slope is negative 2. And then our parallel slope, remember, is the same. So our new slope is going to be negative 2. So once we have our slope, we can ignore this line. Okay, the only thing you're going to get out of your given line is your slope. Okay, so once you are given your slope, you're going to ignore that old line. Now you're going to look at your new point, and you're going to take this point, put it into your y equals mx plus b form. Or not y equals mx plus b. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1 form. So this is going to be your x1 and y1, and that's what you're going to plug in. So you have your m, and then you have your x1 and your y1 right here. Okay, so let's plug in what we know. So we have y minus our y1, which is negative 4. And that's equal to my slope of negative 2. And then we have x minus my x1 of 1. So we want it in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So here's where this step comes in. Now we have to solve for y. Okay, so when we solve for y, that is where we are going to manipulate our given equation. So our first step is going to be to distribute your slope to everything inside the parentheses. Okay, so you have y. Now look at both of these. These two minuses make it plus. So you actually have y plus 4 equals negative 2 times x gives you negative 2x. And then negative 2 times negative 1 gives you a positive 2. All right, and then there's a positive 4 with the y, so we need to subtract the 4 over. Now be careful, because we're subtracting, we're not going to subtract the 4 from everything. We're just going to subtract it from this. So when you finally get your answer, these two cancel out, and you get y equals negative 2x minus 2. So this is your final answer. One thing I want you to check for is make sure your slope of your new line matches the slope we started with. If you have a different slope than the slope you started with, you did something wrong. Okay? All right, so let's do another one. Again, we want a parallel line that passes through this point and is parallel to these 2 points. So we're going to use these 2 points to find our slope. Then we're going to use this point to plug in. Okay, so when you're given 3 different points like this, you need to find the points that you're using for slope and then find the points you're passing through. Okay, key word here is going to be passes through. The word passes through means that's the new point they want you to use in order to find your new equation. Okay, so we're going to use the yellow points to find our slope. So this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. So when we plug that in, we get y2 minus y1 is 1 minus negative 2 over x1 minus, or x2 minus x1, which is 7 minus 1. So 1 minus a negative 2, that becomes a plus. So that's really 1 plus 2, which is 3. And then 7 minus 1 is 6. So when we simplify this, we get 1/2. So our given slope is 1/2. Our new parallel slope is also going to be 1/2. So now that we have our parallel slope, we can ignore my 2 yellow points and look at our green point. So we're going to have to plug this into y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to plug this point in, this green point in, using my new slope. So this is my x1, y1. So when we plug it in, we have y minus 3 equals my slope of 1/2 x minus 2. But again, we want it in slope-intercept form. So I need to solve for y. So I'm going to distribute the 1/2 into my equation. So I get y minus 3 equals 1/2 x. 1/2 times -2 gives you -1. Add your 3 over. So your final equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 2. And I'm going to rewrite it. Again, check and make sure the slope that you have is the slope that you want. And you do. So there's your final answer. Okay, so when you are given 3 points, figure out which ones you need to use to find your slope. Then figure out which ones you need in order to write your new equation. All right, now we're going to do the same thing, except this time we want perpendicular to my given line. So again, we need to identify our slope, flip them and make it negative or positive, and then use point slope form and solve for y. So looking at my given equation, here's my given slope. So my given slope is 3. So to find my perpendicular slope, we're going to take that 3, make it a fraction. So that's 3 over 1. Then we're going to flip them. So that's 1 over 3. And then you need to make it negative. So your perpendicular slope is -1/3. Okay, so the opposite reciprocal of negative or positive 3 is -1/3. Okay, so now that I have my new slope, I can ignore this line. And I'm now going to pay attention to this point. So I need to put it in point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. This is going to be my x1, y1. This is going to be my slope. All right, so I'm going to plug it in. So y minus my y1 of 1 is equal to my slope of -1/3 x minus my x1 of 3. But again, we want it in slope-intercept form, so I have to solve for y. So distribute your x into your parentheses. So you get y minus 1 is equal to -1/3 x. -1/3 times -3 gives you a +1. Now we need y by itself, so I'm going to add the 1 to both sides. So you get y equals -1/3 x plus 2. And there's the equation of your new line. Make sure your slopes match. If they do, you're good to go. All right.